Almost 5:30, guys.
We'll call our meeting to order. First item is roll call. Diane? Jump. Video.
Mayor Skoog.
Present.
Vice Mayor Nye.
Here.
Councilmember Anderson.
Here.
Councilmember Grossman.
I'm here.
Councilmember Mallory.
Here.
Councilmember Whiting.
Here.
And Councilmember Bruning.
Here.
We have a quorum, Mayor.
Thank you, Diane. Next item is discussion Viewpoint Drive floodplain channel channelization IGA. Ron, you're up.
Mayor, Council, good evening. It's a pleasure to be here. What you have before you is an IGA for $800,000 in Yavapai County flood control funds. It's really, really great to be here to talk about more funds coming this year. It's a testament to the partnership and the teamwork that exists between Yavapai County and the town. And over the last 7 years, we've received enough funding to design and construct 3 phases of Western Boulevard Channel, 3 phases of the Tonopah Drainage, and 2 phases of the Viewpoint Channel. So that's almost $3.5 million over the last 7 years that we've been able to take and bring back to the community for projects to improve the quality of life for our residents. So I'm really pleased that we're here to talk about another $800,000. That's great. And, it's through the efforts of the folks over at Yavapai County, Supervisor Smith, who is here with us today. He works diligently with his colleagues, the other supervisors. He works closely with Dan Cherry, the director of the Flood Control District, and Dan's staff, and they work with us as well. And so we make this a reality, and I think it's great. A couple things about this IGA. One is that it is for $800,000. Typically in the past, we would expect to receive $500,000 or $600,000. And what we would do with that was we would design and phase the project to fit within the parameters of that amount of particular funding for that year. This year, this is phase 3 of a 3-phased design, and there's a significant amount of infrastructure that has to go in. So really, to make this happen, we had to go a little bit above and beyond and work a little harder to get the $800,000 that we're going to need for it to make it a reality. The other thing that you'll see on the IGA, something that we hadn't done in the past, but we started doing last year, and it worked out really well, is we started listing more than one project on there. It gave us a little more flexibility if we had a little money left over so that we could utilize all the funds. Last year, we knew we were receiving $500,000, and we knew that phase 2 of the Viewpoint Channel was only going to come in around $300,000. So we wanted to list some other projects so we could utilize that money. Worked out really well. We had the PV pipeline multi-use path listed on there. Sure enough, midway through construction, we had a significant monsoon event and found out that we were going to need more drainage infrastructure. So we were able to utilize some of that money for that. We had the FEMA remap project also listed on there. We found that we were going to need some additional survey for some elevation certificates for folks that were going to need some floodplain insurance. So we were able to provide that for them. And then we had the Sunset Lane listed, that design listed. We were able to utilize the rest of the money for drainage design for that project. This year, a little bit of the same thing. We've listed a couple of other projects. You'll notice up there in the exhibit, if you look from the very top, phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 of the Viewpoint project. And just below it is the Spouse intersection. That's about a $3.5 million project that we anticipate starting this fall. There's significant drainage there as well, and it adjoins phase 3 of the Viewpoint Channel. So we wanted to include that if we did have some monies left over from phase 3 of the channel, we could apply it to that. And we also listed the FEMA remap project. I've already identified some additional elevation certificates that I'd like to get for some of our residents. So I wouldn't even mind utilizing some of that money for that. So, overall, I think it's just a story of success and continued success, and I'm looking forward to it. And before I answer any questions, if I may ask Supervisor Smith to come up, would that be okay?
That's very appropriate. Thank you. Jack, welcome.
Well, Mayor and Council, once again, we stand up here as partners, and Ron said it all. These projects are very important to the town of Prescott Valley, and we feel very, very fortunate to be able to have a flood control district that takes all of our projects into consideration, such as this, and adding the extra projects, knowing that the Sunset Lane, knowing that, that this project finally is going to come, hopefully, to a close, and we'll be able to move on to other things. A few years ago, we took some money out of the flood control district, about $2 million worth, and we put it towards working it towards the general fund and whatnot. So this year, we actually increased our levy by $1 million to help facilitate these types of projects, which, again, when you talk about the monsoons and the amount of water that we've been getting lately in the area, it is extremely critical that we have that infrastructure in place to deter that water away from our roadways, away from structures, and put it down into wherever it can go, away from, where folks are living. So I really appreciate the opportunity every year to get up here and say we did something really great. But you guys, as Yavapai County and the town of Prescott Valley, again, we come together as partners in a great, great friendship. And again, we're going to support the town. So it's really cool to be able to do this. Any questions of me before Ron comes up here, the smart guy comes on up?
Questions, anybody? Larry?
Just a comment. Perhaps there's an update available on Sunset Lane, because that is another partnership that would probably merit some conversation.
Yeah, a little bit of the update. We're about 60% on, is my understanding, on development or engineering and getting things done. We had some concerns in regards to driveways being so close to the roadway, and the engineers know a heck of a lot more than I do. I get a briefing about every other week on these projects, but a lot of the engineering is getting done. The folks are starting to learn about it in Yavapai County as well as the town. We're going to be sending out flyers as part of this project, letting people know what's going to be done. And overall, you've heard it many times that Sunset Lane from about Coles and Fries, where the town of Prescott Valley starts, halfway through there is where the county picks up, and then at the end of that, you've got Prescott East Highway. All of that is going to transition into basically 3 lanes, 1 lane in each direction, and correct me, Ron, if I'm misstating here, 1 lane in each direction plus a center turn lane, which will pull the volume off of those lanes, so when you want to turn, you're not blocking traffic and holding it up. We know the volumes have increased over the last few years. What initially started off this project was the fact that we were having 5,500 cars in a 24-hour period roll through that residential area, which was huge. And we knew for future development, we knew that, as roadways become more congested, people are looking for different ways to get to where they need to go. And now we have the Granville area has opened up. So we want to make sure that our roadways are safe. And again, the town of Prescott Valley and Yavapai County came together, and we also determined that people who walk or use bicycles need to also be able to share that piece of the roadway. So we're putting in sidewalks as well on both sides. And my understanding is the town's going to do roll curbage, just the same as county. So the transition, you won't even know you've entered into the county or you've entered into the town when this project is complete. So the infrastructure is going to be completely benign, if you will. You're not even going to know it. And I hate to, I don't want to throw anything out there, but we are kind of saving up a little extra funds just in case, because you never know when a project comes along and you say, whoa, we didn't realize when we dug this up that this was going to happen. So the county does stand ready to support this project 110%, as well as I know the town does too. So it's going to do something amazing for the folks. So any other questions? Thank you for that.
Any other comments, questions? Jody?
No, I just want to thank you again, Supervisor, for your partnership on that. And with the contingency, I know that is really important. Thank you for looking ahead, for that vision to do that. Oftentimes, it does happen that we have to use that. Thank you.
You bet. And it's actually, believe it or not, it's not contingency. It is a line item in our 5-year plan that's dedicated for Prescott East Highway. And we've got about $1 million, and you know me, I have no filter, and if I've got money out there, it's the people's money. You should know what it is. I've got $1 million dedicated to the Prescott East Highway Corridor, and if something happens, we do plan on pulling money from that because we got more studies going on in that area. And if I may, real quick, for the folks that do live in that area who do not have the hookups to the sanitary districts or the waste districts, you're still on septic tank, this would be a perfect opportunity to start talking about joining up into that wastewater district, because we know a lot of the septic tanks in Castle Canyon Mesa just continue to fail. I hear about it almost weekly. Folks are getting charged $8,000 to $10,000 to replace their existing septic tanks. And then they're also finding out that a lot of their leach lines don't fit into the current standards. So it's got to either be modified or they're not allowed to put in a new system. So there's a lot of old structures out there that they need to take a look at. And if there are owners out there, it's probably a good time to start thinking about this. And we're going to have some community meetings in regards to this too. So I do have a story to share real quick, and I know, Mary, it looks like you have a question.
Just a real quick question on this. So if people are thinking about, I think this is the time to check on this, it would have to be more than one. I mean, it just couldn't be one person at a time, or some want to do it and some don't still. I mean,
sure.
Yeah, I mean, how would that be? It can't.
Well, I've already got a few people that have approached the county saying, hey, what are we doing about septics? What's going on here? Mine's failing. I have to have it pumped every 3 months. So I do have several people that have already approached the county in regards to this. Again, I work for the people, and I've said from the beginning I'm not going to force anything onto anybody. But when you look at your property values, when you look at the overall costs over the years of utilizing a septic tank, when they're first put in, they're good for years and years and years. But now that it's been 40, 50, 60 years, those things are starting to fail. So I would be a very nice person if I didn't say this is a perfect opportunity while we got the streets dug up to actually start looking at some type of sanitary district or something to where they can come in and improve that area into that sanitary district. And we're not going to put pipes down streets or anything else. We're just going to put the infrastructure in place, because one thing drives me nuts. You put in a brand new roadway and you fail to put the infrastructure underneath it, and 6 months later you're digging it up to put something underneath the ground.
Okay.
These engineers, these town managers, the county administrator, flood control, they're doing it right. We're going to do it right the first time. APS, everybody's on board, and we're taking our time. That's why it's taken quite a while. Plus, we're saving up some money for it. But we want to do it right.
Okay.
So,
Laura, you got a comment?
Jack, I know when we transitioned here in Prescott Valley, we were able to find low-interest loans for our citizens, and I'm positive that you're working on that. But in case somebody's listening and heard what you had to say prior, which I 100% support, they need to know there is assistance available.
Absolutely.
That they shouldn't try to do this on their own. They should get the information and the facts, because they can get a better interest rate.
And that's exactly what we're doing right now we need to make sure that everybody has all the information before they enter into anything. So they need to understand what it's going to cost, what the long-term value of it is, what it's going to do to their property, how long it's going to take to hook up, where their septic tank is at, where their hookup is at, what is their responsibility for going around the house and hooking up, and so on and so forth. And I know Larry knows a whole heck of a lot more about this.
If I could, if we want to set a day and time to discuss this in a work study, that's what we need to do, because we're a little beyond our agenda item on this, like by a long ways, and so we probably need to, I hate to be a wet blanket, but if we want to have a discussion about the formation of a sewer district at the request of the people that live in Castle Canyon Mesa, we would need to set up a separate agenda item at a separate time to do that.
Yeah,
I think you better bring that one back to us, Larry, and we'll cover it.
Yeah, I apologize for that. A real quick story, though, at National Night Out, and this is a testament to your roads department. I had a young lady walk up to me at Pronghorn Ranch, where Mayor Skoog and I were, and she thought I worked for the town. And she started going into a story, awesome story, that she lived on a street in Pronghorn Ranch, and they were getting ready to do the chip seal in that entire area. And she said, I don't know what to do. So she called the town, and the town said, I tell you what, when you see those trucks show up, go over there and talk to them. And she did that. And the individual in that truck said, I tell you what, and she was all the way down at the end. She says, we'll start with, the individual in the truck said, we're going to start with your street, and then we'll work this way instead, just to help facilitate her delivery and making sure she was taken care of. So a testament to your roads department and all the guys and gals that work there. They do a phenomenal job. So I really wanted to share that story. I told her I would share it, and I also pointed, I said, that's your mayor right there. So, but great flood control project.
Any more questions or comments?
We're back on
flood
track.
Control?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you, and I think I appreciate the fact that we're collaborating. The county brings us resources to help us contribute to some of the projects that we're looking at, as we talked about already. I won't mention those. But I think the floodplain work is very important. I do, and I think the mitigation that we're involved with and the progress we've seen, I'm real pleased to see that, and I'm sure the citizens in that area are as well. So appreciate the help.
Absolutely.
Any other flood control comments, questions? Jack, thanks for being here. Ron, anything else? No, sir. If there is no other comments, Larry, anything? If not, we'll move on to agenda item number 5. Number 4 has been amended out of the agenda. Bill, you are up.
Thank you, Mayor. Hopefully this will work.
Screen is looking good tonight, Bill.
Does it look good? Yeah. Well, we're not there yet, so. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council members. Tonight I'm going to give you just a very brief presentation on a new software program that we've added to our town website. It's called Opengov. Opengov is kind of a standalone product that is utilized by well over 1,000 towns, cities, school districts, counties throughout the United States. And the concept behind Opengov is that it's going to try to take all of our financial data that we have in our system, and everyone knows we have a lot of financial data as it relates to the budget book and everything else. And we're going to try to make that in a more user-friendly, easy-to-read type of format so that anybody who wants to learn more about the town, even though I think we are pretty transparent with our financial data, but it is difficult to go through a 500-page budget book and kind of find the information that you're looking for. So we've been working about 3-4 months, myself and 2 of my staff members, Irina and Katie, and we've come up with what we heard. It's a work in progress right now. We think it's a pretty good tool for individuals to use. So I'm just going to kind of hit some of the basic slides or basic screens real quickly, and if you have any questions, then just let me know. Now, it is on our town website right now. It's terrible nose. So under here, you can see under financial services, if I can stay down there, nope. Under financial services, you can see Opengov, fiscal and budget transparency. So it's there, and it's also under town services. So the both of them will go to the exact same spot. So with that, if I can get to it, keep on moving. So the first screen that will come up will be basically what we're calling, and if you get on your own computer at home, spreads it out a little bit better, and it's a little bit easier to read. The first one that's coming up is what we call just annual. As you can see, it contains both budget information and actual information for expenses and revenues. One of the nice features is that we have our current budget year in there right now. So we have 17-18 right here. So here's 17, 18, and then we have actually 6 years of more actual data. And what that you can do is you can look at it and say, okay, how do we do against compared to our budget? Are we over? Are we under? You know, where are the shortfalls at? Where are we collecting more money at? So in this, you can just, there's, like I said, many years. And so now if you just hover over any of the columns, you can actually see how much money was spent. In this case, it's being spent. And then the green bar is revenues. So this is all the information from our budget books, from our CAFRs, and then it's all displayed right here. Now, if you want to go into more detail, you just click on, I'm just going to look at expenses right now. And then it takes all of that information and breaks it down into the various expense categories. Oops, excuse me. Various expense categories. And, you know, if someone is really interested, they can kind of go through here and say, well, you know, what is our, you know, salaries and wages, or pick whatever topic you want, whatever category you want to look at. And then you can get a little bit more detail. The other thing you can do is you can click and use it as a pie chart. On your home screen, it would be a lot bigger than this, but you can get a general idea of where the money is spent and the various percentages that it's spent, what's spent in each category. But going back into this one, showing the bar, no, line chart, showing this one right here. If you're interested, what we could do also is that if you want, this is by the various expense categories. If you really want and you're familiar with using filters, you can come over here and then you can say that I want to know by fund. And then it'll break it down by the various funds instead. So if someone would say, okay, I want to look at general fund, you click on general fund. And then it gives you a history, basically 7 years of various information. If you want to, and what we could do is we can break this down by department. So it's going to take all of this financial data, and basically it's ready to be used at your fingertips. So we think it's a kind of a nice feature to be showing our residents or whoever's interested in looking at the various financial data, that it's all here right for you. There's share features. So if you want to email it to yourself, if you want to do whatever with it, you can do that also. And if you're, like for us, like me, if you're into the numbers are right below each of the various categories. So instead of, you can hover over it to see the number, or you just scroll down a little bit and you'll see the numbers that make up the charts, the columns up above. So this is one feature that we can use just with using the filters. But what we also did, though, is to kind of make it a little bit easier for everybody, we created what we call views. And this is where one of my staff members, Irina, she went through and created all these different type of views that we thought someone who was visiting our website wants to get financial information that they would find interesting. So we came up with, you know, revenues versus expenses, the general fund expenditures, all these different categories. So some of the ones, if you want, like public safety, a lot of people ask about public safety. So we could have public safety expenditures by department. And it shows there, then it shows current budget versus the last 6 years worth of actual expenditures. One of the ones that we actually just came up with, because, you know, public safety, the retirement has always been a kind of a hot topic. So we put this comparison in there. And so you can see 6 years of actual expenditures, and then you see our current budget. And the current budget, again, what we did this year is we tried to fund and put a little bit additional money to apply against the unfunded liability. That's why you see that huge jump in this year's budget versus last year's budgets. But you can just see over the years how it's been steadily going up for the pension portion, because of our every year our contribution rate pretty much increases by about 30% a year. Going forward, I would expect our budget, unfortunately, will be similar to this year, actually probably a little bit higher, unfortunately. So this is one. Again, there's so many different views and that to go through. I'm not going to go through all of them for you, but just whenever you have time. Like I said, it's a work in progress, so if you see something that you want to know something that's not on here, just call me, and we'll try to create something. We'll come up with additional view, provide that information somehow for you if you feel it's very important. So, and then what we have is we have a few other options. This one in here is just the monthly. So basically it shows monthly expenditures, and then it's cumulative. So here's July, here's August going on. Right now we don't have anything for the current fiscal year because we haven't closed the month of July. As soon as you see the month of July closed, you'll see then a graph here for the current fiscal year. We update this information every month. So every month you'll start seeing more or newer, more up-to-date information on all of these slides, all of these, because it's very interactive, and we just, like I said, we just kind of keep on updating the information. So here's a balance sheet. Threw this one in here just for you, Mayor, just so you can look at our balance sheet. Again, this will always be at the end of a month, fiscal month. Right now, we're at we just closed fiscal year 17. We're still making some adjustments, so some of these numbers could change slightly. But again, if you look on here, it breaks it out into the various expenditure categories. If you want to look at our cash and investments, do a bar. So you can kind of see over the years, our cash and investments are increasing, maybe a little bit slower than we would like, but they are still increasing. Again, you can sort, you can look by the various funds if you want to see where the money, if the general fund's increasing, decreasing, things like that. One of the ones I thought was very telling is this one on sales tax. If you want to take a tour, you can take a tour. So here's the one on sales tax. Again, we're going all the way back to almost the beginning, well before I even started. And so you can just see the trend of our sales tax collections over all those years. So based on this, it looks like we have 7 years of positive trends. And then we start hitting either a decline or we start leveling out. Right now we're in year 6 of our current trend. So, there's nothing foreseen that revenues are going to decrease or stop coming in at the current collection, but you just never know. And what's interesting, you can always look at these different categories. So this is retail. So you click on retail and it just shows just the retail collections over the various years. So it kind of shows, we didn't have a lot of retail early on, and then you can just start seeing that all the new businesses that are coming into Prescott Valley and the growth. And some of this you have to kind of take into consideration because in the later years here, there's a 0.5 cent increase that wasn't in the previous years. Early on, the rate was 2%, then we went to 2.33%. So some of that growth is derived from our sales tax rate going up. The one that's kind of the really telling, if I can see it here, well, here's restaurant bars. Again, the color isn't the best, but you can still see the growth is similar to retail. More people coming, living in a town, you can just see the retail is continuing to grow, just like restaurant and bars. And
I like that.
here's the one that's here's construction.
Oh, dear.
And the graph on the side, the legend on the side, this is in millions, so you always have to kind of look. Some of them are in 100,000, some of them are millions. But this is, $4.5 million in construction. And here's how we're doing now. We're getting better, but it's still a far cry from where we were back in our glory days, I guess. And the last one, just if anyone's interested, we also have added our debt service. So we have our debt service schedule on there.
Yeah, good job.
What happened?
Nice. I like that.
So all this information, like I said, these are what we currently have. As we're also going, we're looking at other towns and cities throughout the country that utilize Opengov. If we see something that we like, I'll just steal it. Basically, the concept. I have no problem stealing it from other people. So, and then we'll add it to where we think is appropriate. And so, The one thing that we haven't added, that we actually have the capability, and it's called the checkbook. And so basically, you can go drill down, especially when you're up here, up in the annual. I'll go back up to the annual, and this is about probably my last comment on this. But under expenditures, the checkbook, if you pick improvements, say, the checkbook allows us the capability, or someone the capability to drill down to the actual expense. Who did I pay? How much did I pay? When did I pay them? So every transaction could be basically portrayed here. So there's certain things, we definitely won't be putting salaries or anything like that, even though there are some communities that put everything. Salaries, who got paid what, everything, every pay period, every paycheck is on here. It's pretty amazing. But so we're working on coming up with a modified version of what we would call the checkbook. The problem right now, and you can't see it because this is the public version, but there is just so much data. You just can't, it's just so hard to sort through all the data that is currently showing up. So we're going to go through and build filters and kind of condense it a little bit, but we're going to show basically all transactions, a $10 transaction or a $1 million transaction would be reflected in our checkbook once we get the format that I think is very easy and user-friendly. And it'll be for revenues also. So someone could say, okay, how much money do we collect in our sales tax collection in November? Well, they could go to November and they could see all of the sales tax collections that have occurred. So we think it's a nice feature. I'm not sure how many people will use it, but no one could say that we're not being open and upfront about our transactions. So with that, I think I covered all of the main highlights. So with that, I'll...
Question, Laura?
2 words: detailed transparency. Thank you.
Marty? Comment?
Yeah, I have a question regarding the inputting of the information. Did you just put in all the numbers and code it, and then the software takes care of creating all the graphs and pie charts or whatever else?
Right.
So it breaks it out into the different details, but you just input the information once with the specific code as to what department and what kind of an expense or budget item that it is.
Right. Over the last about 4 months, that's what actually, you look at this and go, well, it shouldn't really take that long. But over 4 months, we were taking everything from our financial system, and I don't know how many of you have seen all of the detail in our financial system, and then we have to condense that and then have this system only pick bits and pieces of what we feel is necessary. So we want to make sure we break it down by departments. We want to break it down by funds. We want to make it broken down by the various main expenditure types. So all of that had to be pulled from our system. And so, like I said, a couple of my staff members have been working a long time extracting this data, confirming that the data is right. And then basically we worked with Opengov to get them to come up and with the various formats.
Now, with all this information put in there, will it make creating the annual budget book that you give out to all of us easier and simpler and more detailed but easier to read?
There is one of the features. We haven't looked at that feature yet, but one of the features of Opengov that a lot of cities utilize is basically creating their budget book online. So you could basically go onto a tablet and you click on a CAFR or budget book, and page by page you could flip through it. And they say that they have the tools. We haven't looked into it yet, but they have the tools that basically we could prepare our budget book in detail through their product. One of the things we will utilize it for is that once we get the tentative budget approved, or even maybe prior to getting the tentative budget approved when it comes to council for discussion, we could put the tentative budget on here. So for anyone who wants to look at it, they could come and look on here. You'll see the tentative budget for discussion, and they could click on the various areas. Revenues and expenses would be there. That's what a lot of them are using it for. I don't know. I mean, there are some that are using it to actually prepare their budget book. We have to still prepare a hard copy to send it to the GFOA for review, but a lot of people are utilizing this system for that purpose.
Yeah, well, I think it's a great program, and hopefully a lot of people will utilize it and have all their questions answered rather than have to make several phone calls to you and your department. So I think it's great. Thank you for presenting it to us.
Welcome.
Jody, do you have a comment? No? Anyone else got any comments?
Looking good.
Looks good, Bill. I think you've done a great job.
All right, thank you.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
If there's no more questions, we have one item yet that everybody hates. And that's it's time to adjourn the meeting. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming.